Episode 2 of Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast is here with you wherever you get your pods. We're back for another week and another week closer to the start of the 2024-25 season, and a whole lot going on in the last couple of weeks. NHL preseason well underway. Some Belleville Sens players getting more than enough reps, it seems, and more than enough opportunities to impress the brass in Ottawa. We'll talk a bit about that this week. We'll catch up with a couple of those prospects trying to crack the NHL roster, Cole Reinhardt and Donovan Sebrango, and we'll get you set for Belleville Sens training camp, which begins next week here at CAA Arena. Hi, everybody. David Foote, Brock Ormond here. Glad to have you with us. We are recording this show on Friday, the 27th of September. Cuts are going to be made soon, so there will be plenty of headlines to track in the coming days. We're recording in the beautiful locker room store in the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center. Lots of new stuff on sale and stocked and ready for you to get geared up for the upcoming season. Long-winded intro. Brock, how's it going?
Good. Great, David, and exciting to get back to action here. 1 week away from the first preseason game here at CAA Arena. So, again, where'd the time go? We were talking about wanting to get back to hockey soon, and it felt like such a long time ago back in May when the season ended. All of a sudden now it's here, and it's right. We're ready to go, and we're pumped for it.
Yeah, we certainly are. The buzz is starting to build. You can kind of feel it around town a little bit as the calendar creeps closer to October. So we're getting excited for sure. And I think the preseason games for Ottawa over the last week have got fans a little bit more excited as well. There's been a lot of familiar names to Belleville Sens fans, as I mentioned there in the open, getting looks. I mean, it seems like nightly, as makes sense at training camp, but at least 7+ players that are dressing for Ottawa over this preseason have played at least one game for Belleville at some point in their career.
That's right, and there was a couple guys on the Thursday night against Buffalo. I know you were at that game, and seeing some of those guys really, pumping their own tires to get to where they need to be. That's is impressive stuff for sure. And Tyler Boucher getting an assist last night, which was great. Zach Ostapchuk scored a couple times already in the preseason, and it's a little bit of the physical side too. Guys showing their mojo that way. Donovan Sebrango and Ostapchuk and Angus Crookshank. These guys are hungry and willing to try and earn a spot and do whatever it takes. And it shows that this organization is truly turning a corner in terms of Ottawa and Belleville. That synergy there has been so great over the last number of years, and it's only going to grow stronger with the new head coach up in Ottawa as well, Travis Green.
Yeah, and we will talk to Donovan Sebrango about that physicality a little bit later on in the program. He scored a beautiful goal in the overtime win in Toronto, the preseason opener last weekend, akin to the one he scored against the Marlies as well late in the season for the B-Sens, and starting, I think, to find that comfortability and that level that got him noticed by Hockey Canada a few years ago to represent the national junior team. Yeah,
absolutely, and it's a mix of everything. You got to have a mix of everything if you want to play at the professional level. You can't just be, an enforcer anymore. Not like in the days of old, like in the days of a McSorley or a Brashear or Gretz or a Dave Semenko or anything like that. You can't just be a goal scorer. You can't just be a fast skater. You got to have everything mixed in, and Donovan Sebrango has that for sure, and then some. And you could tell he got stronger as last season went on, especially once it got to the last month or so of the season and then the playoffs. He was incredible in that series against Toronto, that best of three that was won by the Sens, and then against Cleveland too. The Monsters adding a bit more size and strength up front, and he matched that to a T. And David Bell, if Sebrango happens to come back here to Belleville, David Bell and the staff will welcome him with open arms, and I'm sure the fans will too, because he may become a fan favorite this year with the likes of Boko Imama gone and Igor Sokolov. He may step into that role, which is it can only mean great things for him.
Yeah, I think he will. He'll become a fan favorite just like this area has become a favorite to him. We'll talk a little bit about him setting up shop in Prince Edward County over the summer and why he decided to stay close to the friendly city to train. So Donovan Sebrango coming up in a little bit, as is Cole Reinhardt, who had also in that Toronto game. Outstanding performance, 2 goals, 2 assists for him. It seems like, again, when you look at the players that are, on the bubble, for Rhino, he's I think in his 4th or 5th training camp with the Senators. He is the definition of a bubble player, and he's getting the opportunities to try and burst that bubble.
Yeah, and dropping the gloves to fight in training camp preseason. It may seem like something of old where guys, that used to be a regular occurrence, guys dropping the gloves in training camp and preseason, fighting older guys to try and earn your keep and catch the eyes of the coaching staff and management staff. Nowadays, maybe you don't have to quite do that as much, but it doesn't hurt to get a little bit dirty and mix it up like Cole Reinhardt did, and he's done that a bit here in Belleville as well. He's got the mix of speed and scoring touch that every team wants, and he's a great penalty killer, and he's got absolutely a speed to burn when he gets out there and gets some room to move. So, getting into Ottawa, getting a chance, definitely doesn't hurt to get opportunities, and Reinhardt is making the most of them so far.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And again, we'll hear from him coming up later on in the program. More from Cole Reinhardt and from Donovan Sebrango as episode 2 of season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast continues. There's, along with the familiar names that have already played in Belleville, there's a lot of players who could end up in the American Hockey League, and it's a tough time of year, and we've mentioned this a few times in recent weeks that you don't want to pigeonhole a guy or, pick him to land in the AHL before he's had a chance to make the NHL team, but that's not going to stop people from having a think and from, hoping perhaps after some strong performances who could end up here. We saw Adam Gaudette score last night, again, the reigning AHL scoring champion. We've seen some pretty good performances from guys like Jan Yannick, who was picked up by the Sens in exchange for Igor Sokolov. Xavier Bourgault has looked really good. He was acquired from Edmonton in the Roby Jarventi trade. So, there's a lot of players that we're keeping an eye on. Has anybody else stood out to you, Brock?
Yeah, Stopchuk mentioned him just before there. He's a guy that is, showcasing why he is so highly sought after, highly touted by the Sens brass. Picked up his goal-scoring touch right from junior last year in Belleville, and then he goes into this camp with Ottawa, and he scores a winning goal against the Toronto Maple Leafs team that is always tough, no matter when you play them. Preseason, regular season, playoff, doesn't matter. They are always a tough opponent to beat, and Ottawa tends to play their best games against Toronto for some reason. I don't know. I don't know what it is. No matter
that Battle of Ontario,
that Battle
just
of
gets
Ontario,
you going.
Exactly. Even in the preseason, you got Reinhardt, like I say, dropping the gloves, and Sebrango dropping the gloves against Ryan Reeves, no less. And but those guys have impressed. Ostapchuk, like I said, a guy that has a good touch around the net. And, those are the types of players that are going to be really counted upon in Belleville if they don't happen to make Ottawa. But certainly Ostapchuk and Cruikshank, Angus Cruikshank, again, having a good preseason. So those are the types of guys that are really turning heads, and very well could see them with the O-Sens logo on their crest come October the 10th.
Yeah, and still some preseason left for the Ottawa Senators. They've got to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins still, and they've got to go. That's in Sudbury, actually, I think part of Hockeyville, out at the Sudbury Community Arena, chatting with some of the Ottawa staff who have not got a chance to go up to Sudbury before. They're looking forward to it, and that'll be an experience for sure, that old barn in Sudbury. They shoot Shoresy there, and obviously the Belleville Bulls would have played there a bunch of times. I wonder if they'll let the Wolf go.
The Wolf,
across if Ottawa scores that night.
Yeah,
it's probably the coolest part of that rink, so they better do it.
Yeah, the sliding Wolf right on the top there. Yeah, that lets out that howl. Yeah, that's a good old school hockey barn, and 70-plus years old it is now, so that's what you talk about when you talk about old school hockey. So that's got to be really exciting for people who haven't been there before.
And for some OHLers on both the Pittsburgh and Ottawa rosters that maybe would have spent some time there. So that's pretty cool. Donovan McCoy, I don't know if he's still with Pittsburgh, but he obviously played in Sudbury, so should he get into that game, that would be pretty neat for the local kid.
Jabril Toure, too, also played for the
Wolves.
Wolves.
Yes, of course. How could I forget?
Ottawa prospect, could be very much a big piece of this Belleville blue line this year, too.
Absolutely, he could. And again, we'll have a lot more analysis on what the team actually looks like next week. Belleville training camp opens officially on Monday with players hitting the ice and getting split up in their groups. So we'll have a little bit more analysis on what to expect from the Belleville roster on Monday. Cuts are expected to be made in the next couple of days. with Belleville camp opening Monday. We got this show out ahead of those cuts, so stay tuned to the Sens social media feeds at Belleville Sens, Ottawa's feeds at Senators, and the Sens Communications Twitter feed as well is really good for things like roster updates, etc. So the cuts will start to trickle out in the coming hours, I suppose. But for now, we get set to watch the Senators continue 3 more preseason games. Again, Pittsburgh on Sunday in Sudbury, and then at Montreal on Tuesday, and then in Detroit next Friday to finish things off. So it'll be exciting times. I'm interested with those cuts coming, Brock, to see who survives the first round. As you'll hear from Cole Reinhardt and Donovan Sebrango in our next segment, they're just trying to play for another day and to last one more day with the NHL team. It's going to be intriguing, to say the least.
Yeah, and that's the way you have to take it at this point in time. You can't get too far ahead of yourself. You can't think about it too much, or else you're going to make yourself go crazy. So for those guys, it's a smart thing just to take it day by day and keep playing the way they played, because they've done well enough to earn a spot in Ottawa. But if they don't, then sure, Belleville and David Bell and the new staff will welcome these guys back with open arms, and it should be a very intriguing last week of the preseason of the NHL.
Yeah, it absolutely will. We'll get some sound bites from the players, Donovan Sebrango and Cole Reinhardt. We caught up with them after the Thursday overtime loss against Buffalo in the NHL preseason. They will join us next on episode number 2, season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Stay with us. In with a shot, rebound, scores! Garrett Pilon in overtime!
Be there for the next great Belleville Sens moment. Single game tickets for 2024-25 Belleville Sens first half home games are now on sale through Ticketmaster or the Belleville Sens box office. Get into the action as the Belleville Senators aim to make more AHL history at CAA Arena. For info on tickets, box office hours, group experiences, partnership opportunities, and more, visit BellevilleSens.com and be part of the team.
Season number 3, episode 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote and Brock Ormond here as we push through the preseason. The Ottawa Senators have played 3 games in the NHL preseason, 2 wins and an overtime loss to the Buffalo Sabres on Thursday at the Canadian Tire Center. After that game Thursday night, we were able to catch up with Cole Reinhardt and Donovan Sebrango to talk a bit about their camps. We spoke about them in our first segment. Those 2 guys, Brock, have had really, really good camps. A couple of players who are, I wouldn't say trying to find their footing. They're pretty established in the organization, but certainly trying to get noticed by the NHL staff and try to make that jump in their careers.
Yeah, we've talked about them quite a bit already, which is a good sign, and certainly guys that have played their way into a potential role. And last year, they, again, improved as the season went on. Reinhardt's been here for a few years now, so he's well-versed with Belleville and well-versed with the organization, too. And Sebrango last year picked up in that trade for Alex DeBrincat, Detroit. Definitely a good, shrewd pickup, because he was outstanding last year with the Belleville Sens, and certainly is making life difficult on the current Ottawa Sens, to say the least, and also his opponents, too. Fighting Ryan Reeves from Toronto, that's not an easy guy to go up against, especially with all of the size and strength he's got. But he did acquit himself pretty well, so we'll be interested to see what kind of transpires for him. But certainly he's in the conversation to try and slide into a 7th or 8th spot on the Ottawa roster.
Yeah, we'll start with Donovan Sebrango when we get to him, and it's really interesting this time of year, being from the AHL staff and being around the NHL room at this time, because everybody knows that cuts are looming, like we mentioned earlier and we've talked about ad nauseum now. But nobody necessarily wants to be in the American Hockey League. The goal is to be in Ottawa, so it's always interesting to talk to guys about camp. And as much as you want to be happy and friendly and chummy and talk about the summer and what you did, you'll hear from the guys. It's all business right now, and it has to be at this time of year.
Yeah, that's right. And because basically, I mean, they're going to be your teammates at some point in time, somewhere down the line. But right now, they're almost like not necessarily your enemies, but your adversaries, because you're trying to battle them out for spots, and it can make for some pretty tough conversations for sure. But it's all about the business of getting to the NHL, like you said, and then. Once they become teammates in Ottawa or here in Belleville, then they can go back to being buddies again. But it's difficult to have to do that here at this time of year. But it makes for some competitive camps, and that's what you want. You don't want guys just sitting there, resting on their laurels, being complacent. You want to have guys battling it out, and that goes without saying. So it's interesting to hear from them and see what they kind of have to say about that.
Yeah, and you talk about the pace of this camp. Travis Green in his post-game comments after the Buffalo game on Thursday was, asked just kind of generally what he thought the difference was, and he made a comment that maybe the guys were tired and they should be. Because he is putting them through their paces absolutely at camp this year. Let's get to the players. Let's hear from Donovan Sebrango. He's scored a goal. He's had a couple of fights. He's playing a lot of minutes as the Ottawa Senators give him a really good look with a spot on the blue line up for grabs in the NHL. The Ottawa native is our first guest this week on season number 3, episode 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. First of all, how was the summer, man? It's been a couple months. How you been?
It's been good. I spent it mostly in the area, split time between Belleville and Ottawa, but it was a really good summer. Stuck around, got to work with all the people in the organization. So, I mean, they were doing exactly what I needed to work on with me. So, I mean, I feel ready, and I feel ready to go.
Yeah, how nice was it to, I guess, spend some time in the Bay of Quinte region through the summertime, and why did you kind of make that decision to stick so close to Belleville?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you get to learn in the summertime what a beautiful place it is, and you don't got that much time in the season, especially it's a little colder in the season, but I mean, you got a lot of beautiful things in the town of Belleville and Picton and over in the county area, but stuck around just because, we have such a good group and like people in the organization that are willing to help. So, I mean, I wanted to take a big step this year, and I think they helped me get ready.
Yeah, it does seem like you're ready. You've been pretty noticeable through the first few games here, mixing it up against the Leafs the other night and again here tonight. First of all, I guess just generally, how have you felt about your camp and how you've been able to perform to this point?
Yeah, I feel good about it. I'm just trying to play my game. I mean, do what my game's about, and I mean, if it means dropping the gloves, I mean, I'm willing to do that, but I feel good about my camp, but just trying to take a step forward every day.
Yeah, I scored a pretty nice goal in Toronto as well. That wrist shot's kind of becoming a little bit of a trademark for you.
Yeah, that's what the guys have been saying. I mean, I don't get to score much, so when I get in that opportunity, I try to bury it, and luckily it's just went in.
Yeah. Is that an area you might try to focus on a little bit more this year, maybe getting a few more shots off, or is it still going to be kind of that defense-first mindset for you?
No, I think everybody likes to score goals. I mean, if I get in that position, I want to lean into it, but I mean, everybody wants to score goals, so if I get in that position, I'm going to try to keep stepping in them.
Yeah, that's it for sure. I know you don't shy away from the gym. How were the off-season workouts? Anywhere you felt like you made some pretty good progress?
I mean, I felt good all around, but I mean, some of the workouts guys put me through here, I mean, they're tough, but they get you ready for camp. But yeah, they're definitely tough, but they got me ready.
What's the competition been like in this camp? Obviously, there's a couple of spots up for grabs, and a lot of players that could fill those spots. Have you found it competitive?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see it even in the inter-squad games we had. I mean, we're competing, we're ready to go, and we're teammates on and off the ice, but once we get on the ice, I mean, especially in a game, I mean, it's go time. But definitely been super competitive all camp.
And obviously, things aren't finished yet. What are kind of your goals, I guess, for the rest of camp, the rest of the preseason, and heading into to the regular season here in a few weeks?
I think it's just take a step forward every day. I mean, I'm going to try to stick here as long as I can and do whatever I got to do that. But I mean, it's just a step forward every day and just try to be 1% better every day.
And should you end up back in Belleville, it seems like it will be a pretty strong team there as well, ready to build off what you were able to accomplish last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the signings we got this summer, I mean, we did a really good job kind of getting whatever our team's going to look like down in Belleville. I think it's going to be really good, so I'm excited for if I end up there. I'm excited to get going there and have a great year.
So there's defenseman Donovan Sebrango. Again, that was post-game after the Ottawa Senators overtime loss to Buffalo in the NHL preseason on September the 26th, Thursday night. But again, you can hear in his voice that this is a competitive camp. These guys know what's on the line, and as much as, again, we've been thinking about what the roster could look like here in Belleville, it's not really on their minds right now.
No, that's right, and they're in Ottawa's camp right now, and it's all about that. Once they get to Belleville, then it's all about Belleville. So it makes things easier to focus on when you're just on one thing at a time. It makes it so much easier to focus on, because if you get, like I said, if you get too many items in your head that just start floating around and bobbling around your head, it starts to really get to you, and you start thinking about too much, and then that ends up affecting your game. So like Donovan Sebrango said, he wants to play his game, and like I say, he can score too. Like he said he loves to score. It just hasn't really materialized as much for him in the pros just yet. But if he comes back to Belleville, I could see a massive season from him, and he will more than likely force Ottawa to make a tough decision in the next camp, and possibly even get a shot this season if injuries and other things start cropping up in Ottawa.
Yeah, so Donovan Sebrango, I thank him for his time, and again, really nice to see that he's kind of settled in the area, calling the Bay of Quinte home, and that's awesome to have a little bit more local flavor on the roster. Cole Reinhardt didn't stay in the area over the summer. He went back to Alberta to work on the family ranch and get into his off-season training regimen. Sebrango as well, but Cole Reinhardt has kind of become a guy that's embodied what it means to be a Belleville Senator. The attitude, the work ethic, the drive. This is a guy who has been, a poster boy for this team in the last couple of seasons, and is going to be again, maybe more so than in seasons past, with guys like Sokolov, Lassie Thompson, etc. departing. Cole Reinhardt is basically the longest-serving player for the Belleville Senators, and should he not be able to crack the lineup in Ottawa, I think there's going to be a little bit more spotlight on him in terms of one of the guys to really move the needle in the AHL this year if this is where he ends up.
Yeah, and a good leadership type, too. A favorite of the coaching staff the last couple years. First Troy Mann, then Dave Bell. And, Dave Bell has been with him for, about 4 or 5 seasons now. So he knows Cole Reinhardt probably better than just about anybody in terms of the way he plays and how he carries himself off the ice. He was, outstanding last year as a guy that, again, much like Sebrango, although he's a forward, he's expected to be counted on for more points. Doesn't have a whole ton of points in the AHL, but has done just enough to chip in and make a contribution. Like I said, good penalty killer, a good speedster that if you ever need a little boost, a little injection of speed when the team's maybe struggling a little bit to try and get through the neutral zone, he'll be tasked with taking that mantle and running with it. A guy that, carries himself very well. A guy that will play anywhere in the lineup. He can go from top line to fourth line in a matter of a shift or two, if need be, and if the coaching staff wants him to. So I'm really interested and looking forward to seeing how he ends up, because basically this is in terms of trying to make Ottawa maybe one of his last chances. So we'll see if he can make it, and certainly he's impressed enough up there to make some noise.
Yeah, Cole Reinhardt is now he's second among active Belleville Sens in all-time franchise points. Igor Sokolov, Drake Batherson, and then Angus Crookshank, who is obviously active still in the organization, Jake Lucchini, and then Rhino. He's sitting on 99 points in the AHL. So his first point of the season will be a milestone one for him. He is third all-time in goals for the Belleville Sens with 40, and he's 15 behind Angus Crookshank and 36 behind Igor Sokolov. So, again, second among active Belleville Senators in that regard. And penalty minutes, he is the active leader in that category, 235 in his career, behind Scott Sabourin, who had 252 in 91 games as a Belleville Senator. Again, it's an all-time games played, as I mentioned. Now the active leader at 225. Max Gannett is the next closest at 178. So Cole Reinhardt has been a big piece of this team for the last 4 seasons. He will look to be again this year, should he not crack the lineup in Ottawa. And he joins us here next on the Belleville Sens podcast, episode number 2 of Season 3. Before we get into camp, how was your off-season? What did you get up to this summer?
It was a pretty standard off-season. I didn't do a whole lot, just a lot of training and home on the ranch doing some stuff there. So yeah.
Yeah, how's the ranch? Holding up well?
Yeah, it's always busy.
Yeah, good. What was the off-season training like for you? What sort of things were you getting into? Where did you maybe feel like you made some strides over the last few months?
I mean, I've been with the same trainer for 12 years now, so not a lot changed. Just keep working on getting stronger and faster, like I always try to do, and I think I've taken bigger strides.
Yeah, you certainly been, again, noticeable here in camp. Had a pretty good game against Toronto there the other day, and you've played in all 3 preseason games. How have you felt about your camp to this point?
Yeah, I'm just trying to have no regrets and just give my best impression to this new coaching staff and new staff in general in Ottawa. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not your first camp here, obviously. How different has it been, though, given that there's a completely new staff and all the changes around here in general?
I think all the changes are good. I think, like I said, a fresh start for some guys. It's been, I don't know, this is my 4th camp here, or 5th camp, so yeah.
And looking at how the week has been, it seems like it's been pretty competitive throughout the group with a couple of spots up for grabs in Ottawa. Have you kind of sensed that competitiveness a bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for change, and you never know what's going to happen. So you just have to put your best foot forward and have no regrets.
Yeah, for a player like yourself, is there maybe one thing that you're trying to showcase that you do well, or is it just still trying to make that kind of general good impression on the staff here?
I think, I mean, like you said, I've been here for 5 years, so they know my game. I think it's just consistently playing my A game, and if I have a B game, it still has to be basically an A game.
Yeah. What's been going well for you over the course of these few preseason games?
I'm just trying to do my thing of checking and physicality. I think I'm responsible defensively, and the game in Toronto, the points came extra just to our line had a really good night on the forecheck, and things were working out.
Camp is not quite over yet. What are your goals, I guess, for the rest of camp and then moving into the regular season here in a few weeks?
Yeah, I'm just here to earn another day every day. So that's my mentality right now. I just want to stick around as long as possible and hopefully stick around for the year.
Yep, that's the goal. Stick around as long as possible. Try to make the team, and based on the way he's played over those 3 preseason games, I'd say Cole Reinhardt's given himself a pretty good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing, biggest attitude that he has, or biggest thing he has in his attitude is, just taking it day by day, and that's all you can really do. You have the confidence. You can tell the confidence in both him and Sebrango. They're going to make a good go at it in Ottawa. But again, they can't get too overconfident, because that's when your game tanks, is when you start getting overconfident. And those guys certainly have earned more than enough time here in Belleville, and getting their shot in Ottawa. It should be a good last little push here.
And again, if those guys unfortunately do not crack the lineup in Ottawa, they'll be here. They'll be a big piece of the puzzle in Belleville when the season begins. We'll talk Belleville Sens training camp and the start of the season when we come back. This is episode number 2 of Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.
Skate into the holiday season with the Stars. Stars on Ice 2024 Holiday Tour with figure skating icon Elvis Stoyko, Olympic medalist Caitlin Osmond, Caitlin Weaver and Andrew Poget, Keegan Messing, Satoko Miyahara, Ilaj Balde, and more. Stars on Ice, coming to CAA Arena December 8th. Unwrap your tickets at starsonice.ca.
This is the Belleville Sens podcast, season number 3, episode number 2. And our final segment this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. As the schedule heats up, the day of the week that the show comes out may change. We'll do our best to stick to weekly shows and try to get it out on the same day all the time, but not always possible. Obviously, things are pretty busy with the team. Brock's a pretty busy dude. covering the news around the Quinte region. So we'll do our best. But again, if you subscribe to the show, wherever you're listening, you won't miss an episode, and you can't be upset about it. So there you go. A 5-star rating would be great as well, as we continue to build the show, continue to build momentum into the upcoming season, which begins in just a couple of weeks. Preseason is here in the NHL. Preseason is approaching in the AHL. Belleville has 2 games next weekend, Friday, so a week from tonight, and Sunday afternoon, a week from this coming Sunday, obviously. Laval in on Friday night, Toronto in on Sunday afternoon, and the Rocket and Marlies will play each other here on the Saturday. Tickets for all 3 of those games are available at Ticketmaster.ca, and they're just $15.75, taxes and fees in for any seat in the building. And I'm sure we're not expecting 4,400 per se, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of a crowd here to welcome the boys back unofficially with training camp underway.
Yeah, and it's certainly nice to have the longtime fans and maybe some of the new fans that came out last year, maybe, or came out a couple times over the course of the last couple years to come back and see the Sens and see how they do in the preseason. Again, it's going to be featuring a bunch of guys that are already well conditioned from training, obviously in the off season, as well as in the NHL preseason, actually getting games under their belt, which is so important. And it should be a very interesting exhibition season, and certainly the Sens should be at just about full tilt with the fact that, as mentioned, they have a lot of those guys, everybody actually has games under their belt. Same thing with Toronto, same thing with Laval. It should make for some pretty competitive games at the very least for guys that are trying to earn spots here in Belleville and maybe not go to the ECHL wherever they happen to land, because as I think we talked about this before, Belleville doesn't have an ECHL affiliate this year.
Yeah, not officially. Not officially. They will have some agreement in place. The Senators will send prospects, where they need to get their development, but unofficially, there is no ECHL affiliate for the Sens this year. That being said, you can expect some players from the ECHL to be in Belleville Sens training camp, trying to do what the AHL caliber players were doing in the NHL and make a step up in their careers and the level that they're playing at. As much competition as there's been in Ottawa that we've talked about, there will be that much competition in Belleville, whether it's for minutes, competition between guys who came down from Ottawa and are trying to show that they deserve to play top 6 minutes or top 4 minutes on the blue line. And then there's going to be those guys who are coming in and just trying to make the team and find a spot in the American Hockey League. There will be a lot to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And there's been guys in the ECHL that have had their moments here in Belleville. You got guys like Taryn Pfizer from before, and he had a great rookie tournament last year, and it earned him a spot here in Belleville after a great couple of years with Utah in the ECHL. Jared Lucas Savages, another former ECHL. Donovan Sebrango got time in the EC. Levi Merrilainen as well a bit last year and the year before. So there's guys that, again, they're all professional players. There's not one single player that's not professional caliber in the ECHL or the AHL. So that's always another interesting part, too, about getting guys from that level to see if they can try and crack the AHL roster. And usually there's at least one guy that makes an impact and surprise some people, just like there is from the AHL going to the NHL. So it's all a moving cycle, carousel of action amongst players, and it's always interesting and fun this time of year. And then it's always great to see which guys stand out and gets an opening night spot here.
Yeah, so again, camp will be fun to watch. We'll have more on the roster, more analysis, and more of what to expect at camp next week. The guys are on the ice Monday. We'll try to get a show out on Tuesday afternoon to get you caught up on training camp. It's going to be fun this next couple of weeks. Again, the preseason games here at CAA Arena, October 4th, 5th, and 6th. Belleville plays on the 4th and the 6th. Tickets are $15.75, taxes and fees in at Ticketmaster. Single game seats for the first half of the season are also on sale up to January 19th, I think. And you can get those anytime at Ticketmaster.ca. Box office hours at BellevilleSens.com as well if you're looking to grab your tickets. And, of course, you're still not too late to jump on as a season seat member or a Flex Pack holder or any of our other options for seats. As always, BellevilleSens.com for all of that. A couple other headlines to pass along in our final segment here. One of them is that the Belleville Sens are bringing Stars on Ice to the Friendly City in December. The holiday tour of Stars on Ice 2024 will be here on December the 8th. Some pretty big names set to grace the ice. Elvis Stojko, the headliner, Caitlin Osmond, Caitlin Weaver, and Andrew Pogge. A ton of really good figure skaters will be here. Tickets for that also at Ticketmaster.ca. And as a club, we're really excited to be able to bring an event like this to Belleville, something other than hockey to get fans excited and entertained.
Yeah, exactly. And the renovations done here at CAA Arena, making it almost a brand new facility just about back so many years ago, as that's one of the big purposes, to not only build on the facilities and make them better here in Belleville for the hockey team, but also getting other events here. Like I know Stars on Ice is just one event that goes on at CAA Arena. Dance with the Stars is usually done in May. There's usually several other teams here. There's different things going on around, so it's nice to have that kind of an event of that stature here in the Friendly City. It's awesome to have.
Yeah, it really is. So that's coming up December 8th. There's some other news in the hopper about extra events here at CAA Arena this holiday season, but you'll have to stay tuned to find out more about that. We can tell you, though, that the Belleville Sens have officially launched our in-arena streaming service. So if you bring your portable FM radio receiver to the game and your headphones, obviously, you'll be able to listen free to Brock and I, or Tim and I, or whatever is on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. And that's a new program we're really excited to offer, and it's been getting some interest from outside of our club as well. I've had the Syracuse Crunch reach out. I had the Halifax Wanderers from Canadian Premier League reach out about it. So really exciting to be able to offer that to fans this year. Yeah,
and I know this was in the works for quite a while, and it's exciting to have that on the radio, on the airwaves here at CAA Arena. And I know there's plenty of people that will stand in a corner or take their radio to the seats. Back in the days when the Bulls were here, they would listen to the game and without delay, too. That's the key thing, is because sometimes when you try to listen on the app or on your browser, there's a delay, and it can kind of throw you off a little bit when there's 5 seconds in between goal call and goal, so or play or what have you. So that's exciting stuff, and it should make for much easier listening for the fans here in Belleville in the CAA Arena that want to take a listen to us and check out what's going on and have a little bit of background noise for the game.
Yeah, for sure. Again, so you'll have to bring your own FM radio receiver. They're like $15 or less on Amazon. The team will have 5 or 6 that we will lend out, but you will need your own headphones to access those. And those are obviously first come, first serve. And then the more interest there is in this program, the more people that take part and make a point to tell us that they are taking part and they enjoy it, the more we can try to expand the program moving forward. But off and running at least. And lastly, if you know any media members, podcasters, journalists, etc., that would like accreditation for the upcoming season, have them head to BellevilleSens.com and check out our media accreditation bulletin, and we'll get all the media set up this year as well. If you're a media person listening, BellevilleSens.com to get your accreditation for the upcoming season. I think that's it for housekeeping, Brock. Anything else from you before we wrap it up here this week?
No, just really excited to get things going with the Sens, and it's hard to believe it's down to a week between now and preseason. Regular season will be here before you know it, October 11th. So 2 weeks from today in Rochester, Blue Cross Arena. Going to be an absolute barn burner, I would imagine, and it's a great atmosphere to have. Much like starting in Hershey with the banner raising last year, Rochester is going to be real fun. The Americans always put on a good show.
Be a rivalry matchup to open the season in Rochester in a couple of weeks. Preseason next weekend, September 4th against Laval, 7 p.m. Toronto against Laval on September 5th at 3 p.m. Belleville against Toronto on September 6th at 3 p.m. $15.75 for any ticket in the building. Ticketmaster.ca. We hope to see you at the preseason games next weekend here at CAA Arena. Brock and I will be back before that, though. Next week we'll get training camp kicked off. We'll finally find out who has a shot to make the Belleville Sens and who's going to be here to represent this city and play for the Sens this season. That's coming up next week. Thanks again to Donovan Sebrango and Cole Reinhardt for their time after the game in Buffalo earlier this week. Thanks to you for tuning in, and Brock for always co-hosting and helping keep things on the rails. We'll talk to you next week as preseason opens up for the 24-25 season on the Belleville Sens podcast.